Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind Movement Health podcast. Today on the show, I have a very special guest. Leslie, welcome to the show.
Oh my God, Kate, this is going to be so fun. I'm really excited to be on your podcast today.
Well, inside, I'm kind of jumping, for joy to have you come on the podcast. Because as I was saying before we started, I've been following your work for many years, especially as a younger Pilates instructor getting into the business. You, to me, were one of the only few people that actually talked about the business side of Pilates. And I remember, exactly as you say, you'd come out of the Pilates course and you have all this knowledge of how you want to help people. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? How do I run a business, or how do I invoice people, or how do I, work out that when I'm going to be sick and I'm not getting paid, that this is
Right.
going to be viable. So, thank you so much for sharing and being here in this space, because you are an inspiration, I think, to so many people.
Thank you so much. And I know you're in Melbourne. I wonder, were you a teacher when I was there? I think I was there in 2018. I don't know
Yes.
if you were at that workshop. Were you at the workshop?
Yes, I was.
Oh my God. So this is hello, long time no see. But that was so fun. I need to get back. But I still think I'm one of the few. There are more people talking about the business side of Pilates, but a lot of them, it's like these like follow this system and this is how you do it, and it doesn't take into account your goals, your vision, who you're wanting to reach, how you want to reach them. And so I find that a lot of business coaching today, not just in the Pilates industry but in general in the service industry, is like just plug and play, and everyone just starts copying what they think is successful and not really understanding like the why behind the what, and also that's not the only way to do it. And so I'm excited to chat and hopefully help anyone listening to understand that whether you're a teacher or not, like you are the only person who can do what you do the way that you do it. You're it. So we need to make sure that you don't burn out so that you can keep making the impact you want to make. And also, there's always someone who wants what you have to offer. There's always someone. So it's a matter of them hearing that you exist.
Mm. I love that. And before we do dive in, can you share with our listeners, a little bit about your background and how you got into Pilates and why you continue to love the method?
Yeah, so I got into Pilates kind of kicking and screaming a little bit. My friend, a coworker, I was a coworker at the time. She invited me to a Pilates class, and I was like, "This is a BS infomercial workout. Like, it can't do the things that we all think it can do." But I had this little part of me that was like, "You have no friends to go to this class," and it was because I moved to a town to go to college. After college, all my friends moved away, and I stayed. So I was like not new to town. I've been there for 4 years, but I was new. I know didn't have friends anymore. And I'm sure anyone who can relate, like when you go to school, you have like friends in place and then everything changes and you have to start over. So here I was, 22, trying to have a friend. And so I went to the class thinking I'll never have to go again. We'll hang out and then we'll have other ways to hang out. And I was blown away. My first class was a mat class and I felt parts of my body I never felt before. I'm a hypermobile person. I'm an athlete, so it wasn't like I was new to working out, but to feel parts of my body I'd never felt in any other type of workout just blew my mind. And I also got to feel what it's like to not be in my mind so much, just be in my body and to be present. And so I left that class on a high. I was telling everyone they had to do Pilates after one class. I was one of those people. And I changed the work schedule where I was at so I can go to Pilates every single day. And with the more I did Pilates, the more I realized I didn't actually like where I lived. And having that understanding, I went to work like literally that day, and a coworker at another location was like, "Hey, I put my 2 week notice in." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to put in for your job." We had the same job, different locations. And so I just moved. And that move is what prompted me to go on a journey of considering to teach, because I was actually struggling to find a place to teach. But believe it or not, in 2008, 2007, Pilates students didn't have websites. So few of them had websites. It was like not like it was still not a thing to like, it wasn't that popular and to be like easy to find. And a lot of the best Pilates instructors were behind membership walls at gyms. And so I'd have to get a membership to a gym to go take from them. And so I told them, someone said I should become a Pilates instructor. And I said, okay, I'll do that as a part-time gig. And because of my business degree, because of my experience running a retail shop, I actually hit the ground running as a Pilates instructor just because I had the understanding of margins. I had an understanding of policies and boundaries. Like those are things that not a lot of Pilates instructors have, and that's not their fault. you come, whatever your life was before you become a Pilates instructor can either help you in some ways or it can affect how you do things in a negative way. You'll have to learn it a different way. But that's kind of what led me into teaching. And then what happened is the business I was working at saw how quickly I was converting first-time clients. So people coming in for a first-time session and they're buying packages. I had 100% conversion rate. Everyone was doing it. And so they were like, how are you doing this? And so that forced me to actually evaluate what am I doing that's different than this person who's also at the studio been teaching for 15 years. How I like, because like in my mind, I'm feeling like an imposter. They've been teaching 15 years. People should just want to work with them. But people were signing up to work with me. And so what was the difference there? And I created a workshop on that. And then people started hiring me to teach this workshop. And then because I happened to live down the street from Jay Grimes, who was one of Joe Supply's clients, I started getting asked to teach workshops based on what he was doing. And so kind of is how we all got here today, is that my past and a little bit of like opportunity and place of a living allowed me to share with the world how Pilates is and what it is, and also how to grow a business that sustains and supports the goals that you want to have.
Mm. Well, I think even sort of as you were saying there, the evolution of Pilates, even in the last, 15 to 20 years, I did my first course in 2004 and nobody knew really what it was. Like everyone was
Right.
like, what are you teaching? And my first jobs was teaching in a gym. I was teaching mat classes to, women that were coming to do a Pilates mat class. And I started walking around and correcting them and they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, we're doing Pilates. And they're like, well, we've never been corrected before. Why? Like it was just something new, to the typical gym class. And then, there were a few studios around, but it was really quiet. And like you said, most people didn't have a website. And now if you look at it today, like even in our sort of smaller town, there's must be at least probably 6 to 8 group reformer studios. It's being taught at gyms. There's more of the, I teach this sort of studio setup with all the equipment and we do individualized teaching. There's a few of those around, but not as many. And classical, again, they're just a spattering in between as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's like, well, if we know the history, right? So in the States, you were being sent cease and desist letters if you were saying you're a Pilates instructor up until 2000. So and then for Pilates to have been around the world, that means that someone studied with Joe sometime in the 70s and then hopefully move back to a different country. So like it just took a long time. So the fact that you were 2004 doing this, of like am amazed and in shock, and now where we're at, it's got so much popularity and it has evolved for better or worse into so many different styles. And what I think that's cool is there is something for everyone. And that's why I think like it's really important that you as a teacher own how you like to do Pilates as how you teach it. I like certainty. So the order really soothes my soul. It really helps me out. I love, as a recovering perfectionist and overachiever, I love comparing myself to myself, my practice today versus yesterday. I love that, right? Some people want to be moved. They want to be entertained. They want to feel a burn. That those people want to feel that no matter what their regimen is. There's a style for that. And so I think where as all Pilates instructors can do, the best thing is like honor the way that you like to do it and then make that your uniqueness, because there will actually, I think it's really sad that there are mostly only class-based studios now and very few personalized style studios. There are people, yes, it's more expensive, but there are people who need that, desire that, want that. And yes, there are always going to be people who want something more affordable or group-based or something they could do every day. Those will always exist, but we can all exist together. And then you might be a 20-year-old who likes the classes because that's what you can afford. And then eventually you're a 30-some-year-old who's like, I want privates because that's what I need. Like we evolve as humans and what we want. And so I think that's what I hope more teachers do is like open up the space and teach the way that you want to teach. There will always be someone that's for you, and there'll be people who don't like it, and that's okay.
Mm. Well, I agree. And I think that's the same with clients. As you said, you've got to seek out what you can afford, what may be local that you can attend, what's on offer. I think the
Mhm.
internet now has really opened that up so that if there isn't a classical studio in your area, you can do classical online, which is
Yeah.
amazing too.
I love that you point that out for all the clients. I mean, there is now more than ever accessibility to free Pilates. Like it exists. And so if you cannot afford to pay for it, or you can't afford the time, like maybe you don't have an hour of your day to commit plus the commute, there is something for everyone. And then you can also, maybe you go to a studio for one session a week, but you do at home for 3 sessions a week. Like there's so many different ways of doing it. It's really honoring where you are and what you need. And I think that's fun. I think that we can all coexist, and the more people who are having access to Pilates, the better it is.
Agree. And I think a lot of the time, because I'm sure it's the same in the States as it is here in Australia, there's always a lot of debate about a properly qualified instructor versus, reformer instructor that's done a couple of weeks. But I think if you're confident in the area that you teach in and you're happy with how you're, say, running your business or the clients that you're getting, you can stay in your own lane. You don't need to kind of worry about all of that else going on because it shouldn't necessarily affect you if you're, good at what you do and you're really servicing your clients well.
Yeah, I think first of all, we have to allow people to start with where they are. And we also, not everyone, no, we're not regulated. I mean, maybe you are in Australia a little bit, but like unregulated out here.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going towards regulations where we're at right now in the States. So what I would say is, as long as you understand that you're always learning, please, if you got so obsessed with reformer Pilates that it made you want to become a reformer teacher, don't be ashamed that you are not. But if you that you're not comprehensively trained yet, but if that's something you desire, go do it. Right? Like know that the door is there always. I do think that at some point, knowing the whole repertoire makes you a better instructor, even if all you teach is reformer. But I'm not going to sit here and say you're not a teacher just because that's all you've been trained on. Like, I don't think that that's very fair. And I also think a lot of people don't know what they're buying into. So I think that there's like an onus on training programs to make sure that they're explaining to teachers, like, this is what you'll be able and qualified to teach when you're done with this. I think that that's very important. That's why I wrote my book, because I had so many teachers coming to teach at my studio when I worked at a high-end fitness company, and I couldn't hire them because they were not comprehensively trained. Now, that doesn't mean that their training was bad or they're not a great teacher. I couldn't liability wise hire them because they weren't trained on all the things. So I would just say, if you're a teacher listening to this and you desire to have options, a comprehensively trained certification is going to give you the most options as far as work goes. But don't be ashamed if all you are is a MAT qualified teacher or a former qualified teacher. Own that, be the best at it that you can be. And then as you're ready, invest in the education that you want to invest in. Sometimes, my first training wasn't my last training. So, like it was really good. It got me where I needed to go. And it definitely set me up for some success, but it didn't make me the teacher I am today. That took years of experience of just working with real humans, hearing their questions, and then based on what I was curious of, I study with other people. So I think that that's really important. I think it's for the teachers listening, please do not let any one person pressure you to be a specific type of teacher. Your personal practice with Pilates will, and the clients you love to attract should dictate where you want to grow your learning.
Agree. And I think also from a client's perspective, if you start your Pilates journey and you work with one instructor and then you move on to a different studio and work with a different instructor, you're only going to learn more because they've got different focuses, different education. And a lot of my clients, they're always like, oh, you're going to be away and such is teaching me. And, oh, and I'm like, you need to embrace that because you're always going to learn something new from someone else and potentially, have an aha moment and deepen your connection in, a certain exercise or your breathing or whatever it may be.
I love that, Kate. I mean, we as teachers, we spot what we got, like what our experience is, where we struggle, we can see that struggle in others. It kind of is the same thing about things we don't like about other people. It's usually the thing we have to work on. But so as a client, you going and staying consistent when a sub comes in might actually mean that you understand another exercise in a unique way. Or maybe I've been trying to say something in a way that makes sense to me, but it's not making sense to you. Kate teaches the same exercise and just says the words a little differently. And you're like, oh, aha, I got it. So it just makes you better. And I think as teachers, if you are feeling threatened that someone could take your clients from you permanently, I would really evaluate like how is the session going? Are you actually giving them the benefits that you said you were? Because I taught when I was a newish teacher, I taught my friend's clients. She'd been teaching a year longer than me. So it's not like she had much more experience. She went on maternity leave. So I taught her clients for 4 months. All but one client went back to her. And the one client that didn't, it's because she couldn't. My friend was like, after having a baby, these are my hours. And this one client couldn't fit in those hours. That's why I got her. It was like a default. So, I think even if 4 months of teaching these people 2 and 3 times a week, they still wanted their original teacher. So I would just trust that if you are really, truly giving people what you said you give them, even if they take from a sub, they will always come back. And clients, you owe it to your practice to be consistent. So taking from other instructors is going to be the best way to do that.
Mm. Well, I completely agree. And I always sort of say, because you have conversation with other instructors and they're like, oh, one of my instructors is leaving to open their own studio and, I'm worried that clients are going to go with them. And I always say to them, to be honest, if a client doesn't want to work with me, then they're not the client for me anyway. They're not going to get the most out of their sessions and they're taking a spot from someone else that is. So it's
Yeah.
so much better to let them go. And a lot of the time when I have, say a client has left for whatever reason, they've moved or, a different studio's opened, if you keep that door open and you just, say, yep, fantastic, wish you all the best, they often end up coming back somewhere along the line too. So, and even if they don't, they refer someone else to you. So I think, honor other people's journeys and leave that space open for someone that does want to work with you.
Yeah, I'm really of the abundance mindset. Like for sure, a teacher could leave and absolutely be awful and send all these messages behind your back to like recruit all of your team and your clients to go with them. And if that happens, I think it's a good time to evaluate like where was your connection with everyone in the first place. It's typically even when people do those things, and those people do exist, there's not everyone's amazing. Um, there's usually like those people wanted to go or they were having issues already or maybe you weren't as engaged with your business as you could have been. I find a lot of studio owners who are either over teaching or they're overdoing the admin and they're not in touch with their teachers. And it's hard. It's hard to wear all of the hats, which is why delegation is really key. But if you're a studio owner, if you are truly engaged with the business, most people will roll with the punches of you losing a teacher, gaining a teacher. If they provide feedback, that like feels like it's negative. It's because they care. They want they want it to be better for them, and not everyone's feedback is going to be taken into consideration, but like, just know that the more you ask for actual help, that allows you as the studio owner to engage with your teachers, to engage with your clients, you will have very few surprises as far as who's leaving, who's going, who's moving, who's referring the most. So stay engaged and stay a part of it. And know that like most people just want to go to a place where they feel seen. Most people want to teach at a place where they feel seen. People want to know that there is some sort of way for them to grow. So if you are providing your clients with information on, hey, you're here right now, but we can take you here if you keep being more consistent, they will rise to that occasion if they can. Teachers will stick around a studio, not just because they're paid well. Yes, they need to make a living wage, but if they feel like they are being challenged, or if they're like, hey, I'm really interested in teaching a workshop and the studio owner is creating a space for that to happen, people will stay, even if another studio comes in town trying to poach them. Like the people want to stick around where they feel like there's family and community.
Agree. And I think clients are really the same. Having that connection between you as the instructor and your client, greeting them when they come in, asking, how's their body, how's the injury going? Or even, with a lot of my clients, I know their partner's names and their kids' names and what they're up to. And that connection sometimes can create so much more out of their workout because it puts them in a better headspace by you just saying, oh, hey, Linda, how's your daughter's new job going? That sort of thing can really make a difference.
Yes, I love and look, it's not easy. We all have things going on, but these are little things that you can just be intentional about. It doesn't have to be every single client every single day, but it can be every single client within a month. Like there's things you can do. And if you, the owner, aren't there, then the teachers can do this for you. If you train this, it becomes part of your values. And if you teach clients to do this in their classes, like, hey, Linda, meet Lori. She actually works at the same on the same block that you are. Like if you start to introduce clients with each other, they are going to stay for the community that you've created and not want to leave just because something opened up down the street or a teacher is leaving. People really want to be part of that community. And it just takes being intentional, and that isn't easy. It takes a lot of time. My husband and I own several businesses and it's hard, but if you make it part of your values and you set yourself up tasks that are easy to do to create those values as part of your through line with your clients and for your teachers, it becomes more possible. And then you have a business that's very sustainable and, more importantly, making the impact you want to make. Every single person listening to this isn't like just in it because they need to make money. They actually got into this because they wanted to make an impact. People who are clients got into Pilates because of how it makes them feel good. And so really, looking at your business is going, okay, how can I make the biggest impact I want to make? Does that look like with actions, not just in the teaching, but as people walk in the door, as people get correspondence, like what does that look like? It starts to make it easier and more consistent, and also makes it fun. It makes it fun to run this business.
Mm. And you mentioned consistency in business, but also when it comes to workouts, I think that's one area, especially women that maybe are working full time or they've got a family as well, to find time to make that time to consistently, do their workouts. How do you keep your workouts going consistently, and how do you encourage your clients as well?
I love this question so much. So first of all, you're never going to find time. Like it just doesn't happen. You actually have to set your schedule up with your priorities in first. And that is not just me saying that. That's like, there's every cliche out there, like show me your schedule and I'll show you your priorities. Like you have to be priority number one. And most of the time we ask women, what are your top three priorities? They're not even in the top three. If you write them in order, write down your priorities. They're not even the top 10. You have to be number one priority, because without you being the happy, healthiest version of you, then everything kind of falls to the wayside. So you asked how I'm consistent. So first of all, I do Pilates 5 to 6 days a week. It is a non-negotiable for me. 2 of those sessions I actually do sign up for a class. And those are the 2 that I actually do like the full hour. So I have a teacher. I think every teacher needs a teacher. I have a teacher that really challenges me. And it is at 6 a.m. in the morning. It is not fun. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm like, oh my God, I signed up for this. Okay, here we go. But I never regret it, right? And then the rest of the week, I usually do it in the morning after a walk, and I let myself do between 15 and 30 minutes. I think it's so important to know that Pilates does not need to be an hour-long session. When Joe opened his studio, when he had a studio, you didn't even make an appointment. You came in, put $5 down, and you did your Pilates session. And for some people, that was 15 minutes. For some people, that was an hour and a half. Like it really depended. So I love to remind people that finishing in air quotes is optional, whatever that is. Like as long as you get some Pilates in, it's better than none. And so sometimes it looks like doing the mat. Well, the mat does not have to take an hour. It can take 21 minutes, the full order, right? If I don't know what to do, I actually will just start with something. I'll start with my foot corrector, or I'll start with some roll downs, and I'll go, oh, I feel really tight here. Okay, I need to go over here. And that is because I have a personal practice, a connection to myself and what I need. And that comes with time. So if you're a new practitioner to Pilates, you might not be able to just like start with an exercise and see where it goes. But I encourage you to go to 15-minute workouts, 20-minute workouts, 30-minute. And then if you can't finish it because a kid interrupted or a phone call came in, okay, let it go. And then set up boundaries, like your phone is turned off during your Pilates so you're not interrupted, or your kiddo has to do Pilates with you if they want to hang out with you. Like that's the cool thing about Pilates. Younger bodies can actually roll around and do a lot of it with them. So I think that's really important. But my Pilates practice goes in my schedule before my work does. And so I know for teachers that can be hard because you need to make money. But my loves, like you also will not love this job if you are not as consistent as you tell your clients to be. Every single teacher who's near burnout, when I ask them what their Pilates practice is like, it's like non-existent or it's inconsistent. You don't you cannot just take every single class and call that your Pilates practice. You have to have a personal practice. For the clients watching or listening, you too need to make sure that like this is scheduled in before all the other things get scheduled in. And if you can't go to a studio every day, have some backup online versions or even just ones you've remembered from the last class you went to do on your own. And I know my reformer lovers like, but I'm a reformer at home, so I can't do it. The reformer is a part of the system. It's not the full system. The mat work is why the reformer exists. It's hard, it's difficult. Do what you can. Add in add in what you can't later as it becomes more possible in your body. But for everyone, your practice needs to go in the schedule before the commitments. And I say no to a lot of things. Or I have to say, I can't this week, I can do next week. Or I go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. There's just certain things that you have to do because your movement is key. There are certain things that Pilates can absolutely fix in air quotes or help and support, but the longer you wait to be consistent, the harder it is to get those movements and those spine shapes back. So you have to be the priority. It's like I'm so sorry. I get on my pedestal on this because I'm like, no one, not a single teacher out there should be like, well, I just teach too much. That is not an excuse for your practice. You're either not teaching at a studio that values your movement, and then we need to find a better spot for that, or you are not valuing you enough. And that only goes so long before you burn out, and then the world loses you.
Mm. Well, I completely agree. I do a sort of, as you were saying, I do a private Pilates class with my instructor every week. And just like my clients, I will be halfway through the class and sweating like anything and thinking, oh my God, this is so hard. Why am I doing this? But at the end of the workout, I'm like, oh, that was amazing. I feel great. But also, I think, doing your own practice, especially as an instructor, it keeps you connected to the method. And I've always thought that if you're teaching people and you're not connected to the method, then when it comes to saying to your client, okay, can you give me a teaser? If you don't remember or can feel how hard that is, you may be giving inappropriate exercises to certain people. And also, it's another form of getting inspiration for your teaching because again, when you're working with someone else and they say things in a different way or they go through an exercise, you're like, oh, I haven't done that one in a while. It can then spark a lot of creativity for the own classes that you're teaching.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. I mean, I have a mentorship program where after you graduate, you're in a group that I can still talk to you. And so I will tell them after every session, I'm like, okay, so here's where I struggled today, and so here's what exercises I'm doing as homework because I'm a little shocked that I'm struggling with that still. And that helps inspire them to go, oh, what am I struggling with? I practice today. Oh, and then it becomes a domino effect to the clients. So then the clients are like actually being engaged, like, okay, after the session, like what did you feel? What was an exercise you feel you slayed? And what was an exercise you feel you struggled with? And that allows the client to have taken ownership and be listening to their body. And they can go, oh, I really love chest expansion today, but man, I still struggle with the 100. Okay, then I, the teacher, can figure out what should I be doing to support you? But also like we're all being curious. And that's what Joe really wanted. Joe was such a curious mover and was curious about the bodies that were moving. And he did not correct you a lot. He actually would give you, in air quotes, your exercises. And Kate's your exercise would look different than your exercises. And those were exercises that we needed to help with the exercises we were struggling with. So instead of don't do this and make sure you do this and 17 cues to like get your pinky toe in line, it was exercises that taught you the exercises so that you, the body of the person who's really teaching yourself. And I really think a personal practice, if we want our clients to be doing homework when they travel, and hint, hint, clients, you should be doing your homework when you travel. We as teachers need to be independent movers too. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you have a session where someone's eyes are on you, whether that's weekly or monthly. It's up to what you can afford. But if you don't have a personal practice, then it does make it hard to feel inspired to teach. And so, of course, you're going to go to Instagram or TikTok or whatever for inspiration when really you can save yourself a ton of time and a ton of imposter syndrome by actually using your own practice as inspiration. What are you struggling with? Well, if you struggle with that, of course, the clients are going to struggle with that. So let's be on a journey together.
Mm. And I love how you mentioned too before that, the workout doesn't need to be an hour long. You can do, 20 minutes on a Monday and 15 minutes on a Tuesday and 45 on the Thursday if you've got time. But carving out that time and then creating that movement for what you need on that day is more important than feeling like you have to slog out for an hour.
Yes, because I mean that all or nothing mindset doesn't help anyone, but also depending on where you are in your life, right? Like there's a ton of research that after certain, if you are perimenopausal or menopausal, like increasing your cortisol every single day is not a good idea.
Mm.
So like while working out is really amazing and it's a good kind of cortisol, it still is, right? So let's not put pressure on ourselves that every workout has to be an hour. I don't know where that came from. I don't think there's a ton of studies that show that. I actually think that, quality over quantity is always what Pilates has been about. And so that goes to the minutes of that you dedicate to your Pilates practice as well. I would so rather someone do Pilates 4 days a week for 15 minutes a day than one time a week for an hour. The just the 4 times a week being with your body, moving in the different spine shapes is going to give you way more than once a week for 1 hour.
I 100% agree. And I always encourage my clients to do homework. And, sometimes they're like, oh, I got really busy this week. And I'm like, that's okay. Let's reset. And then this week, set that time aside. As you said, do it first, block out that time and, just start to commit to it. And even, if they don't feel like it, I say, just start with a couple of minutes. Just lie down on the floor. Just, start with a stretch that you might enjoy. And then you'll usually feel a little bit more motivated to keep going.
Yes, I whenever like oh I don't want to do this. If I just get on the ground and start with 100, you kind of just keep going. If you lay on the reformer and you start with footwork, you kind of like you just a body in motion stays in motion. It's that first part. It does take time, and if I hope it helps to hear that even Kate and I are like like some. It's not like I don't want to do it. It's just sometimes getting started is a challenge. But once you get going, you're never going to go, oh, I really regret doing that session today. No one does that. Like we regret going to bed late. We regret maybe having an extra drink the night before. We regret like not drinking water. No one has ever regretted like the movement practice that they had.
Agree. Now, when it comes to, the benefits of Pilates, people get into it for different reasons. Some people, it's more aesthetic, nowadays it's very trendy to see the Pilates girls with their flat abs and, have a Pilates body. Other people get into it because they've been referred to it. What are some of the sort of maybe not so obvious benefits of Pilates in your point of view?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, however you come to Pilates is fine. Like I am not someone who like if I have clients who wanted to come in who are for weight loss or for the flat abs, I was always honest with like, here's what's really going on. Here's why those girls have flat abs. They're genetically born like that, and they're 27. But here's what Pilates can do. So to go to your question, which is like, what is the benefits people don't understand? Endurance and stamina. Oh my gosh, because Pilates flows from one exercise to the next, you get endurance and stamina with strength and everything. And that is something that we need, whether you're a runner or someone who has to chase after a little kid or someone who wants to go on a long, amazing vacation. Like the stamina and endurance that you get just by flowing from one exercise to the next without a break is going to be a benefit that you actually will use. Posture. It is not a sexy benefit. However, it is one of the sexiest things you can do for your body. Good posture, not only if those of you who are on a weight loss journey, makes you look like you lost weight. Um, but that was like my favorite thing is like, look, with good posture, you can look like you lost 5 pounds. It's not like you're walking around with a scale wrapped around your neck. So, you can do but good posture helps with digestion, which helps with hormone health. Do you know that poor posture affects digestion, which also affects hormone health? Poor posture affects your mental health. It actually puts you in a more stressed out state. Stressed out states affect your cortisol levels. So like posture in the way that Pilates helps with that is one of the most amazing, amazing benefits that I think is underrated in the world. Like I do not think enough people care about their posture as much as they should. I mean, there's just so many, but I will say even just reducing stress for me, like that is the benefit of Pilates that I lean into all the time. So today my Pilates is going to be in the afternoon and I am It's not my favorite to work out in the afternoon because it's so easy to procrastinate on it. But what I get to look forward to is after it's over, I know I'm going to be more mindful and like zenned out, not because Pilates is like yoga, but because I had this mind body connection by moving my body. And so it's such a great stress releaser. And I will say, another thing that's not sexy, but is becoming very popular is longevity. So because Pilates focuses on the strength of the spine, and not that the spine is fixed and doesn't move, but the spine moves in all five spine shapes. That mobility of that affects your longevity. And I always tell people Pilates is here to help us fall better, just part of longevity. Again, another benefit that's undervalued and often unseen, but in life, you're going to fall. Depending on your age, that fall is something you'll recover from or you won't. And at certain ages, some falls are going to be the start of a decline that's not going to be pleasant. And so I love that Pilates helps us in so many ways pick our legs up without thinking about it, using our center, working on our side body muscles that help with our balance. And so while not sexy, not aesthetically pleasing, being able to fall better is going to mean that you have a much more fruitful, long lasting life. And I would say it's probably better than the aesthetics that people are using Pilates for. And yes, it can do that just like any other fitness modality can. But I just want to say, like, everybody is a Pilates body. And I know you agree with me, Kate. And also, like, weight loss is not something that Pilates can do unless you have a diet and nutrition plan and hormones set up that is actually functional for you. I think that there's enough science out there that shows that any fitness modality alone is not a weight loss plan. If you are on a weight loss journey, you need to be working with healthcare professionals that make sure that you're fueling yourself properly, that your hormones are aligned and good for you. And then the workouts can actually be in addition to and supporting that plan, but alone won't do it.
Mm. Well, what's the saying? The saying something like you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. Like it just doesn't work. It's like it
Yeah,
goes, your
people like
nutrition.
to.
Yeah, well, they try and they try really hard. And I'm sure you've had clients over your time, as I have, that, they'll ring up and say, I really want to lose 10 kilos. So I want to start Pilates. And a bit like you, I'm honest with them from the start to say, you're going to get benefits of, strengthening your body and your core. And that may help you feel more motivated to, start walking or whatever it may be. But we can't spot reduce and we can't magically just make 10 kilos disappear, but it can definitely doing Pilates can contribute to, better mental health, which can put you in a better headspace. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely
It's
part of
all
it.
it's all part of it. And I think like unfortunately, there was a few years, at least in the States, where it was like more body positive and people were working out for the health of it and not for like a weight loss journey. And now the pendulum is swinging back in a really hard, fast way, which is like all about Pilates for toning and Pilates for weight loss. And I, if you're listening to this and you're a teacher who markets that, like, I'm not here to like say you're wrong, but what I would just say is like, there's enough research that shows that all fitness is really there for mobility, strength, bones, all these different things. And we get to be part of that. And that doesn't mean that we're less than because we cannot help with this weight loss journey. But people like weight gain and weight loss is a very complicated, very personal approach. And I also think that like sometimes people think they have to lose weight when they don't need to. So I think it's really important that we can like own that Pilates does epic benefits that no other modality can actually give. You'd have to combine a few modalities to get all that Pilates can give you. So I love owning that. And I love helping people be curious about why are they wanting to lose weight and if that's the journey they need to go on because not everyone needs to. And I think a lot of us, especially like I'm 42, so I was raised in the low carb, no fat, no sugar, lots of cardio, And so like I understand that like based on what the media has given you, you might have a wrong idea of like what is healthy and what does your body really need.
Mm. And I want to sort of change topics a little bit here because I know you run retreats,
Yeah,
and I'm hosting my first overseas retreat later this year in Thailand. So
fun.
yeah, it's going to be amazing. A whole week of doing Pilates. I mean, seriously, what could be better?
I love it. Your next one should use my house in Cambodia. It's such
Well,
an easy flight from Australia.
yeah, I actually, when I was doing research for this podcast interview, was looking into your Cambodia place. So, can you share a little bit more with us about the retreats you run and the place you have in Cambodia too?
Yeah, so I love running retreats. They are a lot of work. So for every teacher listening, something that I think is really important is that you do not think of a retreat as a paid vacation. You are not on vacation. You are working. They are on vacation. You are working. But I got into retreats. First of all, I liked that yoga people did a lot of retreats, and I thought, well, that's cool. We should be able to do that. And then my husband and I fell in love with Cambodia on our honeymoon. And I just felt like my soul was home. And so many people, I think, had the same mindset that I had when my husband's like, I want to go to Cambodia. I was like, Cambodia? Hmm. I mean, those temples are cool, but like, can we go to Thailand? Like, can we go to Japan? But it was so funny because when we land there, I was one who fell in love more. And well, I shouldn't say more. If he's listening, he obviously loves it too. And I asked around, I was like, so if I were to bring retreats here, how would that help the community? How would that help the villages? What can we do? And so we were really intentional about using some really epic locals to help us run our retreats. And so after about 3 retreats, we bought our own house there. It's 12 bedrooms so that anyone can rent our space and run their retreats from it. We have this beautiful, we call it a yoga shala because in Cambodia, they know what yoga is. We're still working on the Pilates, although it's gotten more popular there too. So that's cool as well. But this beautiful outdoor space, we do mat work, we do breath work. I do workshops on creating your ideal schedule and delegating and really understanding like what should you be prioritizing in your life? And we get to do 2 days at the temples where most people only do a day at the temples or half a day and they fly on to somewhere else. So we do that. We go to a lotus farm. We go on a water village tour. Like we just have the most amazing time. And this year we're doing it twice. We'll have another one in October. Next year we'll probably do maybe one. Well, we'll see about two, but it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm sure for you, Kate, it's like you get to help people get out of their routines, get away from the chaos, and just focus on themselves. And when we retreat and we get to do Pilates uninterrupted and without the rest of our life going on, we can actually really feel the benefits of what it's doing for us, that mind body connection, and we can hopefully reset how often we want to do it.
Mm. Well, that's exactly, I've run retreats before in Australia, but this is the first one overseas because the last one I ran was like the year before COVID hit. And then, obviously everything kind of shut down for a number of
Yeah.
years. And now
Yeah.
people are like open to it again. But exactly what you were
Yeah.
saying is I wanted to create that space for people, with everyday life, everyone is so busy that they don't sort of feel like, they said to me, I don't feel like I have the time to just even stop and think about things. And I know I should be doing X, Y, and Z, but it just feels so full on right now. So I'm like creating that space on a retreat, as you said, where it's just you to think about only yourself is just such a gift to be able to give to people to create whatever it might be space for their practice. It might be, space to work out what's, going on with a loved one, whatever it is. But then
Hmm.
having that connection with your body daily, because we'll be doing Pilates and yoga sessions and a breath work and meditation session and things like that. I just think, it's so amazing, especially for women again, to be able to take that time for themselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully it'll be an amazing hit. And next year we'll be able to come to Cambodia.
Yes, yes. I'll just reach out. I mean, because we have, when you put together a retreat, the hardest part is like all the moving pieces. It's like planning a wedding every single time. So there's a lot of stuff you have to do at the very beginning so you can understand, and then you sell it, and there's this middle, and then you got to get ready again right before. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we have been able to put together a chef, and our tour guide is the one that National Geographic uses. And we live in a village, and so you get to experience like you just see what people who are living in Cambodia live like, but then you're like 10 minutes from the massages and the pub street and all the things that could be touristy. And so for us, it's like creating an invitation for people to go visit a place that they might want to do, but might feel like it's too far away or too difficult to do. And especially that for women, I believe that every woman should go on a trip overseas alone. And so, but that's scary. And so our retreat allows them to come alone, but be with friends.
Mm.
And so I'm sure it'll be a big hit. The thing is that like, They're a lot of work, but it's like that like work that you like love to do because the benefits of them are so huge and they're so amazing. And so I can't wait to hear all about it. Also, you're going someplace that's going to be very popular because White Lotus releases soon and it's all about Thailand. So like so you're picking a hot spot to go. But please reach out if you and your people want to use our house because it is beautiful and we would love for other people to get to run our program. We actually help you connect with we help you with the people from the airport to the house, all that stuff. All you have to do is sell your retreat and lead it, and our team takes care of the rest, which is quite fun for us.
Oh, well, that's amazing as the retreat host because it's a lot of the work. As you said, coordinating it is a huge part of the work.
Yeah, no, we wanted to take that out of it. I mean, people are always like, you do a retreat here and do a retreat here. And I'm like, let me just tell you, it is so much work. And while we love doing it, it takes several people on our team. So we keep doing it at our place because one, we love having the excuse. We want to take people there, but also we can now provide a place that's really easy for someone to just come in, plug and play their own retreat, and they don't have to worry about who's cooking, where's the food coming from? Oh gosh, that restaurant closed. Oh, this is happening. Now it's raining. What do we do when it's raining? Like, like we have it all covered.
Well, that sounds amazing. And I will definitely be contacting you in the future because I spend a lot of time just even researching places, reaching out to people, seeing what facilities they have. Can I, do this? Can we do this activity? Waiting to hear back. So it does take a lot of organization on that back end.
Yeah, it does. But it'll be so fun. It'll be so worth it. So anyways, enjoy Thailand and then 2026 can be Cambodia.
Yeah, sounds good. Now, I want to just run through a couple of quick questions before we finish off, called our Fast Five. The first one
Okay.
is, what's your favorite Pilates exercise?
Oh God, it depends, but I will say I never ever skip a thigh stretch. Ever, ever, ever. But
Yeah.
I mean there's some other ones that I think are funner and sexier, but like that's probably my favorite.
Least favorite exercise?
Semicircle. I do a semicircle. I know, isn't that shocking?
I love that. Like, that's what I
I
love.
I have such a hypermobile spine. I feel it so it basically just reveals all the different places where I hang out and lose strength. And so honestly, my teacher Jay, I said it's a fast five. My teacher Jay always said if you don't like an exercise, you have to do it twice. So I have been finding the love for the semicircle so that I don't have to do it twice.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends what apparatus you're doing it on too, whether or not you're doing it on the Cadillac or the Reformer, because it does definitely change it.
It's different. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, like I've been really loving headstands on the reformer lately. So I've been going semicircle prepares you for headstands. You can't do headstands without semicircle. So I've been, forcing myself to find some love for it.
What's your favorite Pilates apparatus and why?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's hard to pick, just one. I mean, I'm so lucky to have, I will say, if I could have a guillotine, that's probably my favorite. I think the guillotine is like a chiropractor in your home. I think it is epic, amazing. It's challenging, it's teaching, like it's got all the different things. But that's pretty hard for most people to have access to. So I think a spine corrector is the best. I think it's really, truly, I love it for myself because it's a great way at the end of the day to open up your chest. I love how it teaches the connections to my back with my legs, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. So all you reformer lovers who are like, I need to have a home reformer that folds up and slides under the bed. Guess what? You can have a spine corrector and it just fits in the corner of the room.
Yeah, I do love the spine corrector, and I think it's one of those underrated pieces of equipment
Yes.
because it's smaller. Everyone thinks, oh no, the Reformer or the Cadillac, but yeah, it's
No,
such lovely work on the spine corrector.
it's a mighty beast. I love it. And it's affordable. It's like it's an easy thing to buy.
True. What continues to surprise you about Pilates?
I think I'm constantly surprised that people are just discovering that men should do it. Like I think it's like when people like these NFL, I'm like, yeah, I think they've been doing it for a really long time. And also like it was designed by a man for men, so of course it's good for men. I think that really surprises me that we still have to like explain that men should be doing Pilates.
Yeah, it's true though. And I think a lot of the sort of promotion of Pilates is towards women. And again, I think that sort of, especially with socials and that push to aesthetics, that's probably part of it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what like if we focused on marketing the strength and stability and mobility, then like we'd hit everybody.
True. And finally, do you have a go-to sort of prep or warm up that you do before you start each session
When I teach or when I'm doing it?
when you're doing it?
Okay, when I'm doing it, I will say that the arm series on the spine corrector is like my go-to. If I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, like I really do love that because you can't go wrong and it really will reveal like, oh, back bends aren't going to feel really great today, or oh, this is feeling good. I should challenge myself. When I have a new client, because I obviously teach a lot of people only one time because they come in to travel, then I actually do love to have them put on the Cadillac and do a roll down and do the roll back. And I just like to see like, how do they roll back? Do their hip flexors take over? How do they come up? And that kind of reveals where we need to go.
Love it. And then finally, is there anything that you think we haven't talked about today that you'd like to highlight?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I think we could have another conversation another day. This is so much fun. The time flew by. But I think it would just be, I think we said it, but I want to just like say it in a sentence. It's like protect your practice, whether you're a client or a teacher, like protect your practice. Your practice time should be as important to you as washing your hair, as doing the dishes, as taking the trash out. Like it should just be something that is inherently yours and you do it even during the chaos.
Love it. And I hope everybody listening in has like really taken that in because I know even as an instructor, it's nice to hear that from someone else because as a business owner and a mum, sometimes it's like, oh, I feel a bit guilty, because I'm going to do my practice and I could be doing something with the kids or it could be, but as you said, if you don't put yourself first, then you can't look after other people. You get burnout too
Yeah.
quickly and everything falls apart.
Feel guilty when you check your email. Feel guilty when you're like scrolling on the gram. Like those things that are easy distractions. That's what you should feel guilty doing because you can do that on the toilet. You don't have to do that just like in life. So I would just like change where your guilt is because also I just truly believe that if you want to have relationships with your children and your siblings and your family for a really, really long time, we cannot be a burden on them. And I promise you, if your health is declining, you are a burden on them. And that's not going to be fun. You're not going to be able to do really amazing shared experiences.
100% agree. Now, before we wrap up, where can listeners reach out, connect with you, find out more about you?
Yeah, so everything on onlinepilatesclasses.com is like you'll see free tutorials. There's tons of blogs. You can take class with me there. If you aren't wanting to pay for things, obviously all the tutorials are free, but you can go to YouTube and there are some free classes there. I will say, since a lot of your listeners are probably Australian based, Pilates Nerd Down Under sells my flashcard, so you don't have to pay the ridiculous shipping that is not going down since the pandemic from the States. The Pilates Nerd Down Under sells my flashcards. So if you are wanting to nerd out or create your own workouts or session plan or class plan, you can get those from her.
Amazing. Well, I'll link that all up in the show notes as well. So listeners, head across to the show notes to connect and find all those. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Lesley. It's been such a pleasure having you on.
Kate, this was so fun. I hope we do it again. And I will make sure you know when I'm coming to Australia. Hopefully, we'll do an Australian tour at some point, but definitely reach out if you ever want to come to Cambodia.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Thanks.